Risk of Rain 2 is one of the most impressive sequels I have ever played. It also seems like something out of a dream, kind of. A small indie company, and a genuine one at that, not even the PUBG kind, taking their 2D isometric game and making it full 3D is an insane amount of work. Even through a dimensional shift, some design imbalances remain consistent. Risk of Rain 2 is contrasted now to what is likely Hoppo's last mainline entry in the series, Risk of Rain Returns, which is honestly a pretty perfect send-off, being a remaster of the first game, and a really good one at that. I will be frank, I have always liked Risk of Rain 1 way more than 2. Its main flaw was that its multiplayer was basically unplayable for the majority of people because it required port forwarding. If you don't know what that is, if you think of Steam's matchmaking and invites as normal air travel from airport to airport, port forwarding is like trying to make the same trip via pigeon. It's way more finicky, unstable, and a lot of the time, impossible. What's likely to be the very first thing you notice when launching either Risk of Rain game is their art design. Both Risk of Rain games are absolutely gorgeous, and their minimalist style looks quite pretty, though I will admit that I am partial to the 2D art of 1 and Returns. Risk of Rain Returns updated the original game with a bunch of new sprite work, including a handful of new characters. Pilot and Drifter are brand new, with Artificer being from 2. They're pretty much the perfect cast to highlight Risk of Rain's issues with character design. Both Risk of Rain games have a pretty simple gameplay loop. You're running against the clock, trying to outscale the game by getting items to become more powerful than the game can handle before it kills you. Imagine it like this. This clock right here is what you're racing against. Both you and it are scaling against each other as time goes on. You via items and experience, and the game via raw time. You want to get ahead and beat the race before the clock manages it before you. If you're successful, these roguelikes are some of the most attuned to letting you get as broken as physically possible on the market. And if you're not, well, there's always next time, right? You might have already noticed the issue though, which is if your power comes from walking around the stage, then characters with more mobility are just going to be inherently better than slower ones. Of the new characters, Pilot is just kind of inherently better than Artificer or Drifter because all of his moves, bar his default attack, also serve as mobility options as well as combat tools. He can get to different places in the stage faster, get items faster, and scale faster, so is just a better choice from the onset. If they were less powerful in combat as concession, maybe it would be okay, but good mobility is also the strongest combat tool in the entire game. Almost all enemies attack directly horizontally, and even attacks that look like they should have vertical AoE don't. Pilot being able to soar in the heavens and fire at people with one of the only auto-aiming attacks in the game makes him amazing because his enemies literally can't fight back. On top of that, as a run goes on longer and longer, more of your power comes from your items, and your kit becomes less and less relevant as time goes on, so even those who do have powerful kits like Sniper will still find themselves outclassed by those with higher mobility. And after all, getting outscaled by your friends is a core mechanic of Risk of Rain, and that's why Returns includes a brand new, half-joke character, Robo Mando. It's kind of like the little brother character, opening chests for free in return for being absolutely ass in combat. It's pretty fun to play when introducing people to the game. Progression in both of these games kind of stinks, and Robo Mando's unlock requirements sound like something you'd read as an internet creepypasta, but save editing does exist for a reason and is remarkably easy in both games. I don't think I know a single person who didn't cheat in 1 billion lunar coins in 2. I don't think there's any shame in unlocking Mercenary via text editor so that you can beat your friends to loot. Getting outscaled by faster characters isn't exclusive to the first game either. In fact, it's especially true in 2 because of 2 things. That little thing called the third dimension, and a mechanic called Proc Chains. Because you can see so much more in 2, planning your route to get as many items as quickly as possible is a lot easier. Having the mobility of Loader makes it much easier to clean out a level and reach stuff others literally can't. You could walk around the level for half an hour as someone slow while the game angrily scales in the background, or get from one side to the other in 5 seconds as a screaming eagle. As for Proc Chains, a lot of the items in 2 activate or proc on hit, and this can include activating on hits caused by items rather than the player's direct intervention. Some items can hit a lot of things, proccing a bunch of different other items in the process. This is precisely why an item like Ukulele is so good in 2. The electricity it produces can proc other items, which massively increases your lethality. This does not happen in Risk of Rain 1. I say this with certainty because despite Risk of Rain 1 not having anywhere near the amount of write-ups and documentation Risk of Rain 2 has, after half an hour of testing I could not get a single on-hit item to proc another on-hit item in Returns. For example, in 1, ATGs have a chance to fire a missile off any time you deal damage with your abilities. In 2, it's any time you deal damage at all by any source except DOTs. On top of on-hit items not being able to proc other on-hit items, a lot of items and returns are triggered on kill rather than on hit, which can still descend into a visual barf fest, but is significantly more understandable. Now, we'll talk about visual clarity in a bit, but 2's approach makes everything that's happening completely indigestible past 20 or 30 odd minutes. The footage in the background while I explain this will be of me playing the game relatively early into the late game, where it's already unlosable. Here's an example of a completely by-the-book Risk of Rain 2 item interaction which is happening all around me all the time. After killing an enemy, ceremonial daggers drop from its corpse and hunt an enemy on the other side of the universe. It kills an enemy without me realizing it. The Will-O-Wisp, which procced off its death, hits 6 enemies, 2 of which proc Ukulele, hitting all 6 enemies again. 3 of those proc Molten Perforator hits, which then hit all the enemies again, producing 4 Charged Perforator bolts. One of those activates an ATG. Not only does this ATG do 225 times your normal damage, it could theoretically go on to proc even more items, and, well, you get it. It's a mess. This is happening all around you, all the time, and basically turns your game into the Vietnam War. You could keep going with this and make it even more ridiculous, but I tend to get bored quite quickly and obliterate myself from existence instead. Risk of Rain 2 being a complete mess a while in isn't necessarily a bad thing. In fact, I'm very aware that it's the appeal for a lot of people. Maybe you like it that you literally can't understand what's happening around you, but Risk of Rain 1 offers that same feeling while still requiring you to actually be present playing the game and not away from your keyboard after a while. Significantly more item procs being directly caused by you in 1 makes it at least somewhat possible to try to understand what's going on, and you don't ascend to a demigod who might as well not be playing until really late game. The nature of items in 2 makes me feel very quickly like I might as well not be playing, as I watch the game play itself around me irregardless of character choice or difficulty. Risk of Rain isn't something in the vein of Siege or CS, it's not a tac shooter where visual clarity is paramount. That might make this sound like a nitpick, but I genuinely can't tell what the fuck is going on most of the time in either of these games. I have in total somewhere in the 200-hour mark in this franchise, and I could not tell you what is happening on the screen right now. The addition of outlines and returns is really nice for clarity, and boy is that something 2 could do with. A lot of these games is spent hunting for the teleporter. Returns could really do with zooming in and out so that I don't have to play the game like this to play the most optimally, but it is a simple task. The teleporter contrasts obviously against the background, but in 2, good luck being able to see it. Not only does the teleporter have no outline, it's almost full black, and so are a lot of the environment's ground textures. This problem is so bad that they had to add these horrible teleporter sparks to signal where it is, and they're still so hard to see that I doubt they will even survive YouTube compression. Finding the teleporter in the first game is a test of how fast you can traverse the map, whereas in 2, it's a test of how good your eyesight is. I am fully aware how much this sounds like a nitpick, but this is the main reason that I stopped playing Risk of Rain 2, though it was subconscious at the time. It has a real problem with its environments and contrast. There are too many environments in 2 that aren't very interesting due to their extremely dark color palette. You could argue that this reinforces some tone, but even in 1, the stages that are relatively dull on color palette never made me go, man, I want to get out of here because this place is so dull to look at. The absolute perfect case to highlight this is the last levels of both games. Risk of Rain 1's last level is the UES Contact Light, juxtaposed against Risk of Rain 2's Commencement, or just the moon. The Contact Light is gorgeous and makes good use of warm colors throughout its corridors. The pace of the level is wholly dictated by the player. You can explore the entire ship, get all the keycards, get all the side rooms to not only get the loot inside, but also unique items to help in the final fight. Or you can just ignore that and dive straight into the final boss. Commencement is intentionally massively oversized and takes about 5 minutes to walk from one end to the other, assuming no speed buffs. You charge up 4 pillars, and then use Octane's jump pad to go fight the final boss. The moon, I assume, is boring to look at on purpose, but that doesn't make it good. It feels like walking around a giant untextured map they accidentally scaled up 5 times larger than it's supposed to be. There are no fun optional objectives. Instead, you have a strict set of objectives to do before you can fight the boss, and it's the same objective that you've been doing for your entire run, standing around a thing and waiting for a number to go up. The Contact Light's doors are also reskinned teleporter events, yeah, but the keycards alone are enough of an interesting mechanic to keep this map very engaging to play, and it keeps it very distinct from the others. Commencement really has nothing going for it, and I find it just be boring. Mythris, who is Risk of Rain 2's final boss, doesn't help either. Comparing him to the Guardian of the Contact Light, Providence, it's not even a contest which looks better. I assume Mythris minimalism is on purpose, but he just looks like a Minecraft character with a weird TF2 hat. Gameplay-wise, both are... okay. I like the way Providence telegraphs his attacks a lot more, even though it is a little bit of a visual mess. Mythris attacks don't really get lost due to the extremely boring environment that you fight him in, and if I'm honest, he is such an unmemorable fight that it comes back around to being memorable. Not in a good way, but in like a holy shit did they phone this one in way. I had such a negative reaction to Mythris's design upon revisiting this game that I think it was worth some investigation as to why. I think I kind of get what they were going for. Let me compare him to League's Mordekaiser to show what I think their intent was. Black and darkness are obviously pretty universally recognized as signs of evil, whereas light is good. Where Mordekaiser wears that on his sleeve, I think Mythris is meant to be an inversion of this trope, with the two colors most associated with him being white and blue, usually meant to represent good, instead being your enemy hellbent on killing you. Where he fails that Mordekaiser does not, however, is in presentation. Mord is a possessed suit of armor to highlight that this conqueror between dimensions is on a whole other level from mortals. Mythris having no clothes on I think is supposed to be reinforcing his theme of isolation, but it just looks super stupid. Having at least a robe or decayed armor or something to make him not a naked dude with a weird hat on should have really been considered. His other major failure is in voice work. Mythris doesn't have any. Mordekaiser sounds like he wants to eat me and my entire family. And Mythris just types GG easy in all chat. Providence is set up immediately as the antagonist in Risk of Rain 1 from the opening cutscene, which loops back around to retaking your ship at the end of the game and killing the boarding party. In 2, though, you just kinda show up on the moon to murk Mythris and then leave. If he came down to the planet himself to try to stop you from leaving as a last act for his brother, that would have probably worked far better. Mythris's design, lore, and location don't really make for an interesting location to visit, especially not when put up against his brother. The theme they try to convey was isolation, and they did so by dragging things out to a kind of comedic degree. The arena you fight him in is incredibly bland and boring, but it could have been something amazing while still conveying his themes, like a decayed coliseum with spectating statues. If this was a story-driven game, Commencement as a level might work, but for a roguelike, it is ass. Here's the question that I'll send off to you for this week. How do you make Mythris more interesting? You can interpret this as, how do you fix Mythris, but I'm not asking for a full character write-up, just some aspect that might make him more engaging, like what I suggested before. I know his level being disconnected from the rest of the game is probably intentional, but there are definitely ways to do that which aren't making the game play like Dear Esther. Thanks to Emmy for their reckless financial abandon. Both them and the rest of my patrons are wonderful people. Like, comment, subscribe, you know the drill, and have a good night.